is Ruthie. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hit subscribe, ring the notification bell, and you'll get a little notification anytime I make a new video. In today's video, I'm going to give you a life and health update. A lot has happened. So a few weeks ago, I had blockage symptoms again. Woo! So much fun. And like a crazy pain that was moving around, if I remember correctly. It was my upper right belly, then it moved to my lower left belly. It was just kind of like moving all around. And I was like, what is going on? Oh yeah, wow. Okay, I'm just remembering all of it. Yeah, I had to make this video before I completely blocked it out. So I started getting the pain at like 8 o'clock on a Friday. If you've ever had bowel obstructions, I always call them blockages, but doctors always seem a little confused when I say that. I think they refer to them as bowel obstructions. Bowel obstructions, blockage, whatever you want to call it, you can't poop. So I had those symptoms kind of for the whole week. I remember feeling like I was kind of walking on eggshells. I was really overeating hardcore that week. It was just one of those weeks. I was ravenous. I was getting my period. It was just like this perfect storm of things that made me want to eat everything I could. And then when it got to Friday, I was like, all right, this is my tipping point day. If you've had bowel obstructions or blockages before, you probably know what I mean. That day where it could go either way. Either you're going to overeat again and you're going to get an obstruction, or you're going to actually like chill and let your body digest the food that's already in there and isn't really coming out. So I was doing really good during the day Friday. I had only soft foods and liquids, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it this time and listen to my body. I'm not going to overdo it. But then the nighttime came. I ate a lot. I probably could have gotten away with like eating half of the amount and eating it slowly, but for whatever reason, maybe a self-destructive subconscious, I just inhaled like an entire tray of halal food, and I was in so much pain after. Like from Friday at 8 p.m. until Saturday at 4 p.m., it was almost unbearable pain. And the only reason I didn't go to the hospital then was because I was in that amount of pain, and I felt convinced that I could make it go away in some way, and I knew that if I went to the hospital, it would just get worse because of all the stress of being in the ER and just like the hell that is the emergency department. So I wanted to avoid that at all costs. But of all the times that I've experienced severe abdominal pain like this, I think this was the most aware I've ever been able to be in the middle of it. So I guess one positive from that pain was that I wrote a video that I will record soon for relieving extreme abdominal pain. Be on the lookout for that. So I maybe slept like 30 minutes that night, and I really just spent all the time doing meditations as much as I could and trying to detach myself from the pain so that I could just witness it. And I could do it for like maybe 3 seconds. And that's the most I've ever been able to do that. Usually when the pain is that severe, it's like impossible and it's just screaming and crying the whole time. It didn't feel exactly like all the other blockages I had, and I didn't think it was completely necessary for me to go to the hospital at that time. The jury's out on that one, because I don't know if I should have gone during that time. But I didn't, so it doesn't matter. So at around 4 p.m. on Saturday, the pain finally started to subside. After taking like a ton of Miralax and Colace, I started just pooping liquid, which let go of some of the pain, and everything started to like get a little better. And I'm like, okay, that was rough, but at least I got through it on my own. At least I didn't have to go to the hospital and get the frickin' NG tube and all that. So I really thought I was in the clear after the pain started to get better. So then that whole weekend, I still had stomach pain, but it was bearable. It wasn't like it was on Friday. So I'm like, okay, it's getting better. I don't need to go see anyone. It's fine. If it's not better by Monday, actually, I think I kept changing it. I was like, okay, if it's not better by Saturday night, I'll call my doctors. If it's not better by Sunday, I'll call my doctors. And then it finally went to, all right, if it's not better by Monday morning, I will let my doctors know. So Monday morning came, it wasn't totally better, so I let my doctors know. This part really kind of pisses me off, and I don't want to talk shit about my doctors on here because they're awesome and they've saved my life many times, even though I don't think anyone will ever see these videos, but just in case, this is just how I felt in the moment, so I'm sorry if this offends you in any way. But, so my whole thing, oh my god, okay, I could really go in right now. Emergency departments, emergency rooms. If anyone ever sees this that works for emergency departments or is in charge of like hospital design, anything like that, you guys need to get your together when it comes to the emergency department. That was so aggressive. I'm sorry. The fact that someone who has chronic conditions and has to go to the emergency room regularly has to go to the same department that literally anyone else goes to, it's flooded with people. The nurses hate this. The nurses are just over everything. They don't give a fuck about anyone who walks in because they're just like, oh, it's another one. They're just become so immune to other people's pain. So if you're an emergency room nurse or something like that, props to you because your job sucks. I spent a lot of time there and watching the nurses and the way everything operates, and that is a job from hell. And you're an angel for doing that job. However, you can't take out other people's shit on innocent people who are in pain. Oftentimes, how that manifests is by ignoring people. I went 8 hours without one person talking to me, getting me water, checking on me, and it's COVID, so I was by myself, there was nobody with me, and I was in pain, so I wasn't able to advocate for myself, and it's like, okay, hospital design people. If you know someone, let them know. There needs to be a separate emergency department for people with chronic health conditions. Because it is not fair that every time I have to go to the hospital, I have to go to the same hell-driven thing as everyone else. And it would make everyone's life easier because there'd be less people in the emergency department, so that means more nurses per patient. So that means less patients for each nurse to care about. A nurse shouldn't have 8 patients or more. One time I heard a nurse had 15 people. How the hell is she supposed to take care of 15 people? Or he, sorry. How the hell is the nurse supposed to take care of 15 people? Here's how. They don't. And then those people are shit out of luck until you start screaming and yelling about how annoyed you are, about how long you've been there, about how much pain you're in, or whatever you need. And that's what has to happen. It's hilarious because it'll just go down the line of like, depending on when they get there, of patients just yelling about how long they've been there, how nobody's seen them, how they need help and nobody's helping them. And that's the only way you get attention. I either have to be screaming and crying in pain or out of frustration, or I won't get looked at for 8 hours. And this was the first time that I like wasn't in severe pain when I went to the emergency room. So I actually got to witness all this from a place of like better observance rather than just being in it. And it's so fucked up. So that really has to change. So anyway, I voiced this to my doctors many a time because when I had a hole in my intestine, it was there for 2 months. And I was in like dull pain for a while, but I didn't do anything about it because of these traumatic experiences in the emergency department. So I don't want to go to the emergency room even when I need to go because I know how it's going to be such a hellish experience. Like that is where a lot of the trauma is from emergency rooms. Like it's fucked up. Anyway. Oh, I hate talking about this shit. So then I started working with like a whole team of people at Mount Sinai, and I had my gastro, my psychiatrist, my nutritionist, my surgeon, and all of them were like, yeah, we have your back, we're your team, and all that. So the time before this last time was a really traumatic ER experience. I mean, literally every time I've been to the ER, it's been a traumatic experience. So my surgeon was like, well, how did you not go to the emergency room? And I'm like, because I will do anything at all costs to not go to the emergency room. It's hell on earth. And the doctors just don't understand because they're in and out of there. So then my doctor was like, okay, well, how can we make this so that you feel comfortable coming in? I'm like, I don't want to go to the emergency room ever again. I never want to have that experience ever again. So can I like call you so that you know I'm coming in and then I go somewhere else, or I go to a room right away, or I go somewhere different? And they're like, yeah, that's like, of course, we'll do that. And I'm like, amazing, hell yeah, like special treatment, like as chronic patients should get, because we spend more time in the hospital than someone who's never been to the hospital before, you know? So that's how it should be. We should get special treatment because we're the ones who have to go through this all the time. And I know you feel me if you've been through all this. So like, let's try to make it happen. I don't know how to go about that, but anyway, Monday morning came around and I let my doctors know because I was still in pain and I said I was gonna, so I just did it. I told them what's been going on, and he said, come to the emergency department. We need to get imaging done. So I'm like, okay, should I call you when I get there? How is it gonna go? Should I go to a different emergency department? Because this was my first time going to the ER after they told me that I wouldn't have to experience that shit again. So he goes, no, just go to the emergency department. Once you get in there, I'll send people from the GI team down. I'm like, okay. So I go to the ER. I mean, you already know where this is going. So I go to the ER and I'm there for 8 hours before any doctor comes to see me. I'm there for, I think, 11 or 12 hours before anyone from the GI team comes to see me. And my doctor never came. Not once. I didn't see him at all. He just sent people from his team down. And like, I get it. I know these people are busy, whatever. But like, tell me the truth. Don't tell me that it's going to be different or that things are going to be okay when you know they're not going to be. At least warn me so I can mentally prepare for what I'm about to go into. And instead, I went in there being like, okay, this is going to be different than the other times. And then as each hour ticked by, I'm just going crazier and crazier, being like, it's not different. Like, this is the same shit. I would have brought things to occupy my time, or like, I guess I should have known better. I should have known that it wasn't going to be different, but they told me it was. So it's just, it like, I don't know if you can tell, I haven't like done cardio or worked out in a while. So a lot of this like anger is coming out right now. Sorry if this is triggering for you. I'll put a trigger warning at the beginning. So of course, nothing was different. I had imaging done eventually, all that shit. And then once it became midnight or 1 a.m., they were like, okay, we're not going to admit you, but you can't leave. We want to monitor you overnight. So they moved me to the observing unit in the emergency room, which is just the emergency room, but I guess a little bit less crazy. You're still packed in there like sardines, and the lights are still like absolutely awful, just like hospital lights all the time. And there's no windows, there's nothing. So it turned out I had an ovarian cyst. They're super common. I know a lot of people who've had them. My sister's had them a bunch of times. And they're very painful. And there's a lot of different things they can do about them. They can remove them. They can wait till they burst, which is painful, but it goes away. Yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about ovarian cysts. I don't feel like it. But I still have mine. It's about 6 centimeters. So I just have to go for follow-up imaging in a few weeks. But basically, why that was giving me blockage symptoms, as far as I understand, it was because I got my period and I had the cyst. So my ovaries were swelling, the cyst was there, and that just left less space in my stomach for my J pouch to expand when I had food. So I was already overeating and my J pouch had less space. So I guess that's why those symptoms were there as well. And also just when there's stuff happening in my stomach, it's gonna affect my digestion as well, since my digestion is just so sensitive. So I ended up spending 48 hours in the emergency department. It was a really weird time warp. At one point, I just like was uncontrollably crying for probably like an hour, and I couldn't stop, and I was wailing. And I remember like telling myself to stop and telling myself it was okay and trying to calm myself down. but my crying self was just yelling even more. So then everyone was like, oh my God, what's going on? What's going on? And they just come, like, shoot me up with morphine, and I just pass out. And that was at like 8 o'clock. And I hadn't slept. Like, I did not sleep that whole weekend. I think from Friday to Tuesday, I slept a total of like an hour and a half because I was just in pain the whole time. And I was just getting like delirious. I had all these like crazy dreams. It was really creepy. So they inject me with morphine at like 8. I pass out. And then she wakes me up to take my vitals, and I looked at my clock, and it said 12 something, and I was like, oh my God, I slept for so long. This is crazy. And she's like, yeah, you got a few hours in. And I was like, I'm like, that's so long. Like, I thought it was noon the next day because it was so bright in there. I had no concept of time. Whatever time someone told me it was, that's the time I would believe because nothing changes in the emergency department. There's no windows to the outside. It's just the same lights, the same exact things, no matter what time of day it is. Also, oh, how did I forget this? Part of the reason I ended up having to stay so long was because their entire computer system went down for 14 hours. And this was right after I had my ultrasound. So nobody could see the results. They couldn't send anything to my doctors. They couldn't admit me or discharge me. They were doing everything by hand. They literally were writing vitals down by hand. Ooh, my ears. My ears are ringing so hard. They were doing everything by hand. The doctors literally came out to me and were like, for lack of a better term, this is a shit show. Like, I'm very sorry that you're having to go through this because I'm just freaking out, obviously, the whole time. But eventually, they discharged me. They gave me my imaging. They're like, all right, go. You have to come back for follow-up imaging. You have to follow up with your surgeon, follow up with your gastro, and all that. Then when I got home, I decided that was the final straw. I needed to get out of Brooklyn, get out of the city, just get to a place where my body feels comfortable, my body feels healthy, and there's not a train running by every 2 seconds. I'm not pressed for money all the time, and the laundry's not difficult, parking's not difficult. I wanted to go home. So as you can see, if you're observant and notice my background, I moved. This is my new home, my new old home. I think I mentioned it in my past videos, but my grandfather passed away on the 31st of January, the last day of 2020. He was 96. He lived a very long, very beautiful life. I am working on a lessons I learned from my grandfather video, but that'll come when I'm ready. Haven't been mentally prepared to go through all that right now, but I'm living in his old apartment. He lived on the first floor of the house I grew up in. My parents are the owners, they're the landlords, so they're giving me a nice family discount, and yeah, I'm living here now. I brought my 2 kitties with me. I'm living by myself. It feels a lot better. My body feels more comfortable. My mind feels more comfortable. I still have a lot more work to do. I still have to go back to New York 2 or 3 more times to get the rest of my things, the furniture, all that. But I've had a really good start. This is what I was talking about in my other videos, where I was like, there's a big change coming up that's going to allow me to make more videos, so this was the change. I'm here now, and I'll be commuting back and forth to New York for modeling jobs and things like that. But I know that this is the best thing for me to do right now, is to just be away from all the craziness and just get back to myself, center myself in myself. So I got here on Sunday night, and it's now Friday, so I've been here almost a week, and I'm settling in. This is the first time I'm recording, and kind of in my mind, I was like, I'm going to start recording videos as soon as I get there, get everything done, do yoga classes, and make everything public, and I think it was just a little ambitious. I have spent almost the entire week watching drag queens on YouTube and RuPaul's Drag Race, getting some solid makeup inspiration. But actually, no, the main reason I hadn't recorded this week is because I had this crazy sty in my eye. I don't know if you can still see it. Yeah, you can see a little bump, kind of, a little bump right there. So my eyes were like super swollen and red and puffy. And I'm like, but I want to put on makeup. I want to feel good for recording and all that. So, but I went to the doctor, got some ointment. It's getting better. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to put some makeup on and do this thing. So I think that's most of my health and life update. Yeah, I went to the hospital, got an ovarian cyst, got a sty in my eye, I moved, and here I am. Cool. Thank you so much for watching. I know that probably wasn't the most interesting or helpful video, but I really just want to be very transparent about where I'm coming from so that you know what's behind everything that you see. So I'm going to record the next video that's actually going to be useful to you. I'll see you in that video.